mental reservations. A mental reservation, which is that if a church official, I guess, has a reservation about why you're asking the question, if he thinks the answer that your purpose is to discredit the church, he can lie. And this is by no means an official doctrine, but it's a serious enough issue, and that plaintiff attorneys often will ask a bishop if they're deposing him, are you employing mental reservation, or have you ever? And of course that's a trick question, but it's if they have a rationalization for lying as much as they do, then we are really helpless, and we certainly can't depend on them for the information we need. We've got to work around them. And the use of a forensic accountant, for instance, to try to figure out what's going on with the Cleveland diocese would be money well spent.
Is it accurate to say that Cardinal Law was in civil or legal trouble before he went to Rome?
Well, the Attorney General would have been the one to do something about him, and he said he had no laws with which to prosecute Cardinal Law. We were very, very frustrated with him. He came out with a very brave and bold report, but he claimed that there was nothing he could do about all these church managers. He said the laws aren't available to me to use against them. So to answer your question, I have not heard that he was definitely in legal peril. I think probably more what was happening, the Archdiocese was in such an uproar and money was dropping off, and I think probably wealthy donors protested, the priests were protesting, the laity was protesting. I think they just needed to take him out of there. But I don't think he would have ended up in jail, unfortunately.
So by that same token, would that mean that what you told us about Bishop Lennon would not indicate some civil legal trouble for him either?
No, I don't think it would. We've never been able, I think there's a case in Chicago right now that might be legal peril for Cardinal George, but that happens just so infrequently. So to answer your question, no. I think what has to happen with Bishop Lennon, though, is that you can go on our website and I can give you more information. If you put together a table documenting his significant involvement in the abuse cover-up in Boston and say, you've got to stop lying about this, and you've got to tell us why you never reported an abuser to the police, and why you were part of this whole apparatus. If he had said, when he was asked, look, I never silenced a victim directly, I never transferred an abuser, but that doesn't mean I wasn't guilty. I was guilty. I knew what was going on. I knew these guys were raping boys and girls, and I just did my job, and my job was sort of sanitizing this and helping them get laicized. I will say one sort of kind thing about Bishop Lennon. The one thing I hate when I'm reading these documents is that there sometimes is such tenderness by bishops towards pedophiles. I don't get it. The very, very worst guy in this regard is John McCormick of New Hampshire. He was the direct handler of all of Boston's abusers for 10 years. And he just didn't meet one he didn't like, it seemed. And it was more than just, polite language. It was real sweetness in these notes to these men who were shuffled off somewhere for just doing horrific things to our children. And but Lennon seems to have sort of impatience with these guys. He certainly did his job, and he did it well, so he definitely helped with the cover-up. It wouldn't have been as good without him. But he doesn't, one guy's whining that he wants more money, and Lennon says we're not giving it to him. Another guy's whining that he doesn't want to go live in special residence, and Lennon says something like, don't give him a choice. So, that's setting the bar very, very low. But at least I didn't find this fondness for abusers that's quite frequent. Bill?
I do think one thing that's way within all of our power is to not give money. And in not giving it, explain it like that. One thing that I give money, we all say no for many reasons, but to say I will not give money to the church or the Catholic charity or the diocesan drive, they have to hear that. And it's
Yes.
really, I would say almost the only thing they'll understand. Now, definitely don't give much, it doesn't mean much, but enough of that does make a difference. I would be willing to bet we'll see a huge fund drive in our diocese in the next year.
Yeah.
That's an opinion. And I think it's going to come, all these churches are soon to be an enormous tax burden. Because when St. Emmerich is no longer a church, it's a taxable entity. And they are petrified that suddenly millions of dollars in real estate tax.
Yeah.
That's a tough, I mean, forget all the other aspects. That's another drain on it.
Right. And I will say, Bill, if you ever organize a campaign to withhold donations from the church or redirect them elsewhere or whatever, it's very important that you announce that to the press. You will leverage the power of what you're doing. That will be news. I got to tell you, I had a Cleveland reporter say to me 2 days ago, you know, I can't just keep covering these parish closings. These people have to do something. They can't just keep saying, my church is closing, come cover it. They have to take an action that is newsworthy. You know, so 100 Cleveland Catholics, especially if you have a couple of wealthy ones in there, who say, I am stopping giving to the diocese until Lennon is more transparent about this parish closing process or whatever, that would get news, and that's more embarrassing to the diocese and more troublesome than even the lack of money, you know?
I do have a question in regard to that. First of all, there is supposed to be, there was announcement of a $250 million capital campaign, which, as I understand, has now been reduced to 150, and someone is saying it'll probably be down to 75 before we know it. But I have a question for Anne. We were told that the churches, the deeds of the churches would be transferred over to Catholic Charities so that they wouldn't have to pay the taxes on them. Is that accurate, and can that be done legally?
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know that. Does anyone here know if the deeds could be transferred to Catholic Charities?
Any tax exempt organization.
Yeah, do you want to come, please?
I'm just giving my opinion, but I believe that every tax exempt organization has the right not to pay taxes, and Catholic Charities is a tax exempt organization. Someone has the theory that because the church transfers property to the Catholic Charities, that somehow or other that the property will be immediately taxable. I don't think that's a correct impression. That's all I'm saying. Well, if it goes to Catholic Charities and they are in fact a tax exempt organization exempt from all taxes, then they can hold property, they probably already do hold property that they do not pay taxes on. So that's probably where that's headed.
That's what they're saying, that they'll do it.
Since I have...
Thank God. But I do believe the use of the building is what determines its tax-free status. For example, if the diocese owned a gas station and ran the gas station, they would pay tax.
They probably would, but I think that in this case, most of these buildings that they plan on transferring are former churches.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that I'm sure their plan, I'm not saying that their plan is foolproof, but their plan is not to pay taxes. That's why they're using the Catholic Charities as a strategy. Well, I have the microphone. I have one question for you as well. Are you aware of Cardinal Law's role in Bishop Lennon becoming a bishop? Did he have any influence with the Pope that he was able to bring this thing about?
I haven't heard that. That's a great question. I have not heard that.
Because it seems to me that he would be Lennon's champion. And someone obviously pointed out to the Pope that Lennon did a great job in Boston.
Yeah.
Well, the answer to that, when John Allen was speaking, is that for everybody who thinks Law was, I guess, embarrassed to be removed from Rome, actually, I think he there. He did run for a while. Was a member of the group that nominates the bishops for the United States.
I
think he still does. But I know he did. That's what John Allen was saying. That he went from Boston to Rome, that's what he went to do.
That would partly explain why all his henchmen are now bishops. You know, all Cardinal Moss, everybody who Richard Lennon worked for in Boston as Vicar General, all the Vicar Generals are bishops. I interrupted you, excuse me. Were you finished?
Oh, yeah, right.
Sorry, that's fascinating.
I noticed in some of your literature that the bishop, third from the left, is Reverend Wheatland,
Yeah.
who, you know, has